Well, it's been a couple months since my 108-pound harvest. If you haven't seen that video on harvesting 108 pounds of honey, I'd highly recommend you take a look at it. It's a lot of fun and shows you what kind of yield we were getting and how we were extracting it. What I did at the end of that extraction is I put these honey supers back on top of these hives so the bees could clean them out. I went back a week later and these honey supers were full of honey. So, this one here on the one on the left, the second from the top, that one I added just because I felt they could make honey, although this is a brand new hive that I got in April. Here I put those two honey supers on and then I added a third one just in case they filled those two up. So what's happened is this is kind of a weak hive and it's just kind of building up. I'm going to leave the honey on this hive. I'm going to extract all the honey on there because it's 100% capped. I'll show you that. And the brood box is full of honey and larvae and eggs, so she needs more room. And the one here on top really doesn't have any honey in it, and those two down there. So I'm really extracting the top center one and the one on the right, those two. So I anticipate getting about 90 pounds of honey here today. Last time I had a lot of help. I had my nephew Mike helping me. He was a great help. But I'm replacing Mike with two things today. And let me show you what those are. I'm replacing Mike with a wheelbarrow because these boxes are about 40 some odd pounds and I don't want to have to walk all the way from the back of the house to the garage. So I clean out my wheelbarrow. I'm going to be using that. And I'm replacing him with a fume board. And with that fume board, I purchased some Fischer's Bee Quick. Now there are a couple different products on the market. This is the best smelling of the products, and so that's why I used it, because I want to be let back in my house when I'm done fumigating my bees. So the idea with using a fume board, you order a fume board, it's silver. I just took some 99-cent black paint I got at Home Depot, sprayed the outside. The inside is felt. You spray this and all the way across it in all the corners. You then smoke the entrance and the top of the hive. You put this on top, and in a few minutes the fumes will seep down into the super that it's on and drive the bees down. Now this is hot, that's very hot, and that heat will fumigate this liquid. Hopefully that will remove all or almost all of the bees and won't have a horrendous smell on my clothes and myself today. So let me go ahead and get things prepped and we'll start extracting the honey supers. What I plan on doing is removing all the honey supers at first and then start processing the honey when I have all the honey supers in the garage. Okay, the fume board has been on for about 3 minutes. You can see the bees coming out the front. That means I need to remove the fume board because they're being kind of overwhelmed. So let's go ahead and do that now. I just took the fume board off, and as you can see, we're pretty much bee free here. I see one bee roaming around, but other than that, everybody else is gone. I'm going to take this out and put it in the garage. Okay, I got the fume board off. I have the inner cover and outer cover back on. I've got my honey super here in the wheelbarrow. You notice there are no bees flying around this. This is awesome. Very, very awesome. And now I'm going to make a leisurely trip over to the garage. Okay, I've got the outer cover and inner cover back on top. The honey super from here in the garage. And now I just did the same thing here. I'll just work my way down through all those supers. And then I'll have all my supers in the garage to process at the same time. Okay, 5 minutes are up. I lifted up the fume board. There were still probably half a dozen or a dozen bees inside here, which was quite surprising. So I just added some more of the fumigant and put the board back on. I'll have that on there for a couple minutes this time. Now the fumigant itself has a very pleasant almond smell, sort of like what you would have in a house fragrance spray or something like that. So I actually quite enjoy it, probably more than the bees. But let's work them down a little bit more and then we'll get the rest of these supers off. Well, as you can see, I've got just the brood box is left here on these beehives, except for this one here. I left this one honey super on here because they don't have enough honey down below, I don't think. But as you can see, I've actually removed, and this far one, more than half the size of their hive. And so between the fumigant and losing space, they're kind of crowded. So I'm going to go ahead and extract the honey, and then I'm going to put the honey supers back on the hives, so let them finish cleaning it out. and get more room back in the hive so they don't get honey bound. Okay, the big advantage to me is, first of all, I'm not having to fight the bees to take the honey supers off. That's a huge advantage. In all of these 5 supers here, there probably wasn't combined a dozen bees that I had to escort off the frames. So that was a very nice change from last time. Now you see I do have 5 here. 3 of them are full. 2 of them were on there, and I'm just going to extract them. They've had the comb pulled, but there's really no honey in them. But I don't want to put them back on the hives because it makes too much room in the hive, I think. The other huge advantage is that you get out from being outside. In other words, you can come in your garage, wherever you're going to be doing this, your workshop. You can get out of your bee suit, your veil, your gloves, all this stuff's making you hot. You don't have to go back outside until you're completely done extracting all the honey. So you get all the extraction done at once, and then you can do whatever you want to do with the frames. Either leave them outside so the bees can come out and get the honey and bring it back into the hives, or just put the honey supers back on. But either way, it's really much more enjoyable extracting honey by using a fume board, and it's very inexpensive to buy, the board and the fumigant. You can also make the board yourself just by using cardboard and buying some fumigant, or you can buy what I did, the fume board and the fumigant. Now the fumigant that I use, I'm using because I don't want to have to burn my clothes or be told by my wife I can't come back in the house until I'm hosed off, because I understand the other fumigants are very, very strong smelling and very unpleasant. This is, I love this smell. It's actually quite pleasant, and my wife hasn't said a thing about how it smells. She hasn't even smelled it. So I could have used a more powerful fragrance. It would have gone faster, and maybe if you have more supers to extract than I do, you may want to use that. But for the number of supers I'm extracting, and for the benefit of not having to wash my clothes or burn them or keep them out in the shed and shower when I come back in because of the fumigant, I'm going to go with this fumigant. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and extract the honey here. If you haven't seen the other video I made about extracting the 108 pounds of honey, then I'd encourage you to see that. I think you'll get a kick out of that. I got up early this morning and put the honey supers back on the hives so that they have room to grow. The entire front of these hives last night were covered because I don't think there was enough room for the bees to get back in. So they should all be back into their hives this evening with enough room for everybody and for additional room for honey if they need to store any honey. But right now what they're doing is they're cleaning up the honey from my extraction. Let's take a look. Now this is what's crazy. This is the cappings. You can hardly see the cappings because there are so many bees going after the capping. Now what they're doing is they're getting the honey off the capping. Here's the strainer, 600 micron size strainer, worked really well. The honey was warm and it was very clean. It went right through, no impurities in the honey. But you can see that the cappings here it's like oatmeal flakes. They actually get every piece of honey off of that. And you compare that to these cappings over here. Oh, they're already turning them into flakes. Look at that. But they're kind of sticky. Just a huge ball of bees here. And they'll get that all cleaned up. But it's just amazing watching them. And then of course here's the extractor. They cleaned up this morning without any problem. Killed the wasps down on the bottom while they were at it. And they've already got all the hives cleaned up. I put those out. The other hives that I just needed to remove, I just put them outside and they just went and stripped them. So out of the 2 hives that I extracted 3 supers, full supers, and we extracted 98.5 pounds of honey. So far this season, out of those 2 hives, we have 108 pounds last time and 98.5 pounds this time. So that's just over 200 pounds of honey from these 2 hives. I'm a pretty happy beekeeper. One thing I wanted to mention is as I watch these bees actually fight each other in here, I can't think of any creature that when they feel resources are low, that they just go crazy. And they grab as much as they can, as fast as they can, and they attack anybody or anything trying to stop them, humans included. I hope we are a little bit better than the general animal population when it comes to limited resources and being humans. This is LDS Prepper reminding you, if you are prepared, you won't have to act like these animals right here, tearing into each other for limited resources, and you'll be able to help others.